Okay, at the outset, I just want to say that, yes, today's topic for me is how to leverage data for effective training and development. Now, the data that I'm going to cover here and the buzzword and the key word for me when I had this topic as a keynote presentation was effective learning and development, effective training and development. So how do we use data for effective training and development? So I'm going to not focus on the AI bit, I'm not going to focus on the analytics bit, I'm going to focus on how we, as learning and development leaders, need to use data effectively to create effective experiences for our learners. So that's what I'm going to focus on in today's presentation. And I'm going to start with, let's warm up, right? It's what I say, it's two truths and a lie. It's based on that, but it's not that. It's two truths and a data point. So I'm going to share 3 statements on learning and development, and 2 of them will be, of course, true about learning and development, but one will be a fabrication. So you've got to pick the one that's a fabricated data, that's a bogus data. So I hope it's going to be easy because this is just a fun exercise for all of us and not to test anyone. Okay, so the first one is the average human attention span is now shorter than that of a goldfish, making micro-learning not just a trend, but a necessity. The second one is 70% of learning happens on the job, which means our informal learning strategies must be even more important than we have generally thought about. And the third one is the employees who are given free lunch at work are 54% more engaged in learning activities. Which of these do you think is a lie? Third one? Everyone agrees? Third one is a lie? Yes? Oh, yes. I wish it was, the secret to engagement was, yes, you guys are right. The free lunches are not a secret to engagement. It's a lot more, right? So, sorry? There are free lunches at Google and a few more organizations I know of. Anyways, so before we begin, I just want you to think about the time when you actually were delivering or creating your first learning, course or say whatever, how is it that you felt at that time? So you were either creating some learning for the learners or you were delivering that learning. You could see their faces at that time, and I'm talking about not just millennials, but people of my age as well. So there was a time when we could actually see the transformation happening in front of us. We would have physical classrooms, we would have trainings done there, and we would see the learners getting engaged. All of that would be visible to us. But now it's a lot different, isn't it? Yes, a lot of things are happening. There's self-study, there's virtual, you don't get that kind of aha moment, that you would get in a, say, physical classroom, right? So how do you think learning has transformed from that time to now? And right now, the main thing that I believe is we're at the crossroads, So there's a lot of transformation that's happening, a lot of technology getting adopted, adopted every step of the way. But what it does for us, actually, as learning leaders, is that it makes our job even more difficult, right? So what happens? We have so much of data. Everyone says, it has to be evidence-based learning, that is most effective and stuff. So what is data, actually? Is it just numbers and statistics for us? I'm just talking about learning leaders. I'm not talking about anyone else. But for us as learning leaders, is it just numbers and statistics? What is it? Is it more than that? What do you think? It's about people. The data that we are using, it's about people. It's about stories that the data is telling you. It's about the impact that data is telling you about the learning can have, And it's about the potential that it can unlock right? For our learners. So it's not something that we should think about just as numbers and statistics. For us, it's even more important that we think about it as something really, really important, because we are actually changing the lives of people who are taking those courses, right? Those learnings, people who want to learn. We are transforming their lives. We're upskilling them. It's a lot of responsibility that we have, right? All right. And this is data here. That's only 35%, and this is like a data, proper data. They use data effectively in learning and development. And that's why we're churning learnings day by day, hour by hour, but it's not having the kind of impact that it should have in our organizations. So what is happening? Why is it that we're getting all the data, we are creating learnings, everything we're doing, are we doing it right? Why is our learning not as effective as it should be? There's some problem there, right? So why does it matter in L&D? In learning and development, why does data matter? So the first thing, and I kind of thought about it from the perspective that, why does it matter? Because it leads us from a situation to a greater one, higher one. So that's like from this to this. What is the current state? What was her historical state to the futuristic state? So that is how you need to think about data. So what has been happening? Why we think that data is very important in learning and development? Because earlier it was intuition-based, more to say, oh, I think the salespeople need this kind of training. Let's have it. Earlier this was the trend. It was more human intuition-based and not insight-driven. And now that insight can be not gotten because I have a higher intellect, I have higher experience. Data comes into place at that time. So it really helps in transforming our decision-making in learning from assumption or intuition-based to insight-driven. Alignment, that's another thing. So from knowledge, so earlier what we thought of, my learning is going to be, knowledge-based. It's going to impart knowledge. How is it tied to your organizational goals and outcomes? So that is something that data gives you figures for, to help you, kind of align your learning to higher goals. Why just knowledge? You need to align your learning to higher goals. And that is organizational goals or business goals. And employee growth, obviously. There's a lot of transformation. Data helps us there to see the transformation. So from one size fits all to personalized. It's a lot personalized now, right? Why do you think that we want to personalize learning? The talk of the town is personalization in learning. AI is helping us do that and stuff. Why is it so important to us? Because it has been proven, and data proves, that one size doesn't fit all. So it is very important. That is why data matters in learning and development. Upskilling, general skills, right? Now we have targeted learning paths. If I get the data, okay, this person, we have these many people that we need to train, or there's a module that we need to design. Does everyone at that level, even at the same level in a job, everyone is not the same, right? You want them to have the same skills. That doesn't come just like that. You need to have data for that. Everyone doesn't need the same training. Everyone doesn't need to go through the same modules, So that's really important that we move from general skills to targeted learning paths for everyone, personalization. And impact measurement. So it absolutely helps us, It's not just assessing the participation of your learners, how they are participating in your learning, but you also need to see what is the impact of that learning. Is it actually changing to return on investment or not? So that is where data helps you. And obviously real-world relevance. We can have lofty dreams of, creating learnings and upskilling people in this and that and AI and all those things. But the reality is we need to have sufficient data to actually tell us that, yes, this is the need. This is actually what my employees or the learners need. So this is what I came up with. I thought this is why data matters in L&D, because it's the transformation from to what you want. And yes, another data figure for you. So yes, and data-driven companies see 30% higher employee retention. And this is proper data. It's not fabricated. Okay, so what can L&D do with data? We know data matters, it's very important and all of those things. So what all is that it unlocks for us in L&D, learning and development? What all can we do? So to actually ensure that the learning is effective, we have effective learning created. So the first thing, we always do in training need analysis. Why do we need a particular training? Why do we need particular learning? There has to be a reason for that learning to happen, right? And for that to happen, the first step towards creating any learning is the training need analysis. Can we just have a training need analysis done if we do not know what are the skill gaps that we are trying to address? If I don't know what exactly is the skill gap, am I just going to go by what the business or the stakeholders want me to create for the learners? Or am I going to delve deep? I need to delve deep. I need them to give me the numbers, to give me the data. Why is it that you think? That is the first step, right? Why do you want your learners to be trained, or why do you want this kind of training to be created? There has to be some sort of data to prove that it is really going to be effective. And this is the skill gap that we have. That is the purpose of training needs analysis, right? To why a learning is needed, to actually bridge that gap. Please, can you do a time check for me? I could be swayed. So yeah. Then personalized e-learnings, yes, learnings. So what happens is, what we can do in training need analysis, at the first step, we can use data to actually identify the skill gaps. We can have surveys, we can have focus discussions, we can have productivity metrics, effort, error rates, everything of this kind of data. Now, what happens? Your learning is there. Why do you want to personalize it? There's a learning that you have already developed, and you need to personalize it. How will you personalize the learning if you do not know that how many employees actually are beyond that learning? They can go beyond without spending time on something that they already have skills on. So that's the reason you need data to actually have people skip those learnings. Have the opportunity to skip the learnings that is not needed for them. How do you get to that? You get to that through data. Then we can also use data for designing and refining our content. So even, and a very simple thing, so especially when we are facilitating, so what happens, while I'm facilitating, the data that I'm getting is maybe your expressions, your engagement level. Okay, someone's yawning, someone's doing this. I need to change the strategy. I need to change my strategy, right? If that's happening, I can see that. That is also data for me as a facilitator. But for the others, you also need data to refine. So at many times we get, from the stakeholders and our, internal people, oh, we want to redesign this content. Now, why do you want to redesign this content? What's the need? Why do you want to redesign it? So it is at that time that you need proper data to know what exactly do you want to be redesigned. I don't want to redesign the entire course. Why do I need to do that? We need to have sustainable learning solutions as well. We just don't need to create everything from the scratch. That's the mistake that we do many times when we're creating learnings. So we do not need to do that. I need to understand where exactly the learners are lacking, where exactly do they need support. Do they need a video for this? Do they need a micro-learning nugget for this? Do they need coaching, separate coaching, physical classroom for this? Why is it that they're not, the training is not getting converted into effective results? So we need to also use data to design and refine training content. And then, obviously, measuring impact and ROI. That's a very important thing. And data is really, really effective in assessing the impact, the actual impact. I just don't want to see, yay, it was a wonderful course, and we did wonderfully in it, and we enjoyed it, it was engaging. Is it actually meeting the targets? Is it actually meeting the goals that you had set? How do you get that data? So pre-learning, post-learning, what is the difference? Pre-learning, where were the learners pre-learning, and where are they after they have gone through the entire learning? So that is how you get, that's data that gives you that, what do you say? That data. Anyways. And then using predictive analytics for future skill development. And this is also another way that we use data to predict for future skill development. That's also very important. We say that we need leaders in our organization, right? But what kind of leaders do we need? Can everyone be taken in for a particular learning just because we need leaders? No. There has to be some data that predicts that, yes, this will be a future need in our organization. For example, we want to train our people in, say, ChatGPT, using ChatGPT for learning, say. So that's a future skill, but you need data to actually understand that it is a future skill that is needed, and then you design, learnings, because that's a future skill that's needed. So you are prepared for that. Real-time feedback and continuous improvement. Now, this is also extremely important. And yeah, here, now AI has started giving us really good tools to do this. There's Casey, Skillsoft by Skillsoft. It's a really impressive AI coaching tool that actually helps you, what happens? We have traditional training, learnings and stuff. But what this does is, you actually are, for example, you have a pitch that you need to do, right? You do it in front of the AI, using the AI, and it'll give you immediate feedback, your tone, your, how you were presenting it, what was missing in it and everything. So that's, that kind of data is what AI is taking from you and giving you customized or continuous improvement opportunities, right? So that is also very important. Benchmarking and comparative analysis. Yeah, of course. I mean, there's another organization where the learners, sorry, that was a bottle. Where the learners, there was another organization where the learners are more engaged, or, the learners are, they're showing better sales or whatever. How do you actually get that data? You get that data from the other organizations that also have the same problem as yours, right? So you can use data to benchmark, this is not leaving me, to benchmark and compare the analytics, right? And then, yes, data is used, but there has to be an ethical use in training. Data needs to be ethically used because, and absolutely in our organization as well, there's a lot of pushback that we get from even learners or people, from who we need to collect the data, because they are not sure about the anonymity of it, or whether it would be used for punitive measures and not for our development. What if you're using this data to kind of punish me, push me out of the organizations or whatever? So that is something that we need to really, really tell them out at the outset, that this is an anonymous data that we are collecting. It is for your own development. So that, as L&D leaders, it's our responsibility to tell them that we are going to use the data in the best possible way. And that is when you'll get the real or genuine data as well from the learners. Otherwise, if they feel that you are going to use it in a different way, you're not going to get the data that you need. So how do you collect the right data? That's really important. So there's two ways. There's the qualitative and quantitative data that we collect. And both are equally important. I mean, if you have a smaller organization where you cannot have a good amount of quantitative data, you can go with qualitative data first, get the feedback from the learners, your target audience, and then you can move on to quantitative feedback. Now, quantitative feedback, obviously, the completion rate of the learners, the assessment scores, their LMS engagement on the LMS, and qualitative, while quantitative is all about, what is the problem? Qualitative data is all about why that problem exists, and to analyze the need, the actual learner needs. And both are really important. So how do you move from insights to action as learning L&D people? So this is, I'm going very fast because he said it's just 3 minutes left. So what happens? So from descriptive to predictive and then prescriptive. You know how you visit a doctor? So what do? He asks you to describe, he or she. I mean, they ask you to describe your problem, right? So when they do not know where the problem exists, they cannot give you the proper diagnosis or prescription. So it's exactly how we work, So what happened? What might happen? Basis your description, that is when the doctor gets to know, okay, if you are showing these symptoms, this could happen, The doctor is predicting this could happen. And because the doctor knows that this could happen, what does the doctor do? Prescribes the right medicine, right? The right medicine cannot be prescribed unless you describe the problem well. It cannot be prescribed. So that's how, so for example, and I've given the learning example here, that, for example, I say, what is descriptive in my data? So for example, 57% of learners failed Module 3. Okay, they failed. So what is going to be, the impact of it? If they are failing, 53%, so compliance will be an issue in, say, quarter 4. That's the predictive analytics that's there. Now, what do I need to do to ensure that that doesn't happen is you personalize Module 3 with micro-learning. And that is something that you get from qualitative data as well. So it's not just, everything just in your mind and you're doing it. I did have a few case studies, but because we are short on time, I'm going to move. These were some questions that I thought that you all need to keep in mind when you're thinking about data, and utilizing data in L&D. How does it enable? Because it's really important that you need to balance personalization with scalability. You could have a huge organization. Is it scalable or not? If I'm personalizing, is it costing me more or less? What metrics? And you need to understand what kind of metrics are you using to measure the ROI. That's really important, the kind of metrics that you're using. Because your outcome have to match the business goals at the end of the day. And what are the challenges that you face in leveraging data, and how can you address them? This is really important. And these are some very, very important challenges, that everyone faces if they want to utilize data or leverage data for effective training and development. There's a lot of privacy concerns, a lot of data privacy and security concerns. There's a lot of resistance that comes to data-driven approaches. You need to have a proper case for saying that, yes, I need this data, because this is going to cost us this if we do not use the proper data. So you need to get that data from, your leaders or the business stakeholders. There's a lot of data overload, right? There's a lot of data overload, and we as L&D leaders, we need to analyze that data. We need to see what is it that we want to get out of that data. What is our end goal? Why do I need this data? Do you have that in mind? If you don't have that in mind, if you don't have a perfect picture in mind, why exactly do I need this data? It's going to be a lot of data, and it's not going to give you the results that you want. And accuracy is another issue. Yes, we had a fabricated, a data point earlier. So accuracy is also an issue, the kind of, so like they say, garbage in, garbage out. So whatever data you're putting, what if the data that you're getting is not the right data? It's not true. You're asking people for surveys, you're asking people for, focus group discussions and stuff. What if they're not sharing the right picture with you? So that also happens. A lot of times you do not get the accurate data that you need. So you need to keep this in mind as your challenges. There's some best practices that I thought I would put in. So really start small, yes. You need to have that goal in mind. Why do I need this data? What is this data going to serve? What is the purpose of this data? Don't overwhelm with dashboards. I mean, and I've seen people having loads and loads of data and showing the dashboard and beautiful, dashboards all around. Don't overwhelm. What is it that you want exactly? Just focus on one thing at a time. Do not ignore qualitative context. Yes, I mean, learners or whoever else you're getting the data, that data should not be, it's not just numbers. You need to get how the learner is feeling, after going through that training. What is it that the learner needs? Because that's also very important. And always when you're presenting the data, just frame it as a storytelling tool. It's not just numbers that you're going to present when you're presenting it. It's a story that you're presenting. I want the learners to go from here to there in their, heroic story, say, So, and it is not, obviously, data is just a tool. Like AI, data is a tool. You need to have your proper analysis, intuition, intelligence applied to it. And latest trends in use of data, these are known trends. So there's a lot of AI-driven analytics for personalized learning. You have adaptive learning now coming into play, LMS platforms with adaptive learning. Then you have real-time feedback tools. Like I said, there are many Casey, and there's Spinify. There are lots many, online real feedback tools that we have. And yes, and there's going to be a growing trend of predictive analytics for future skills. So like we've seen everyone talking about future skills, but there has to be proper analytics and data behind that.
Thank you so much. Because of time, probably we're not going to entertain questions, but she is here. And believe me, this was one of the powerful presentations I've had. Well-packed.
You didn't give me enough time.
Well-packed. And, I got a lot of things from your presentation. There's one thing which she said. She said, what, when you're asked, how was the training, don't just say, I know it was okay. Measure it so that you see the return of investment on that training. She has included the issues to do with ethical use of data. How do we use data? And apart from that, I was also thinking, time permitting, you also touch on the Data Protection Act that has been passed here in India. And if you move around the world, the DPA's Data Protection Authority and Act has been passed so that we safeguard the data that we have. And we have a lot of data, but we need to use that data properly. Can we please clap hands for her as I hand over